There is a power in the way a high-value woman talks that can't be faked, rehearsed, or imitated. It isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. It isn't coated in insecurity or desperation. It's the calm, steady tone of a woman who knows the cost of her time, the weight of her presence, and the dignity of her silence. When she speaks to a man, she doesn't shrink. She doesn't negotiate her worth. She doesn't try to earn approval because she already lives from a place where approval is irrelevant. She understands something most people never do, that communication is not about convincing someone to value you. It's about carrying yourself as someone who already knows who she is. And when a woman speaks with that level of self-possession, a man cannot ignore her. He might resist many things in life, responsibility, commitment, vulnerability, but he cannot resist the gravitational pull of a woman who is anchored in her value. A high-value woman doesn't rush into explanations. She doesn't overtalk. She listens. She observes. She reads intentions beneath words. She speaks when she has something meaningful to say, not to fill silence or soothe insecurities. Her restraint isn't weakness, it's discipline. It's a signal that she doesn't perform for validation. And any man who encounters her realizes quickly that he must rise to meet her, not drag her down to meet him. When she addresses a man, her tone is firm but warm, clear but human. She doesn't attack. She doesn't accuse. She doesn't spin emotional stories. She speaks in facts, boundaries, and truths. She knows that chaos attracts chaos, so she eliminates chaos from her voice. She talks in a way that says, I'm here because I choose to be, not because I need to be. That difference is what destabilizes a man who is used to women bending, pleading, or proving. She does none of that. She asks questions that cut through superficiality. She challenges gently but unapologetically. She refuses to tolerate unclear intentions because she knows uncertainty is where emotional suffering grows. She makes it known that honesty is the minimum requirement to be near her. Not because she's harsh, but because she knows her peace is worth more than someone's excuses. A high-value woman speaks with a level of emotional responsibility most people avoid. She doesn't project her wounds onto others. She doesn't punish a man for her past. Instead, she speaks from a place of inner order, the kind that forces others to sort themselves out before approaching her. For a man, this is irresistible, not because she seeks to attract him, but because she awakens the part of him that wants to become better. Her words are not weapons, they are mirrors. She makes him see who he is, whether he's hiding, pretending, or avoiding his own potential. She speaks truth even when it's uncomfortable. She respects herself enough not to stay silent when something matters, and she respects the other person enough not to sugarcoat reality. That level of sincerity is rare, it's disarming, it's unforgettable. When she expresses interest, she does it with dignity. She doesn't play games. She doesn't compete with other women. She doesn't fear being too much or not enough. She simply states her truth and lets the other person show whether they can handle it. She understands that rejection is not a statement about her value. It's simply alignment revealing itself. So she never begs, never pleads, never persuades. She lets people choose. And in that freedom, she becomes irresistible. A high-value woman knows the difference between connection and attachment. Connection enriches, attachment drains. So she speaks in a way that builds connection without trapping herself in dependency. She communicates with balance, enough vulnerability to be real, enough boundaries to be respected. When a man hears her speak, he feels her strength in the pauses, not just the sentences. He senses her certainty in the way she says no and her openness in the way she says yes. He feels her presence in her calm, her confidence in her clarity, and her depth in her honesty. This is what creates the kind of attraction that doesn't fade, an attraction rooted in respect, not convenience. A high-value woman talks to a man as an equal, not as a competitor, not as a subordinate, and not as a savior. She holds her ground, she speaks with intention, she chooses truth over fear, boundaries over chaos, self-respect over temporary comfort. And in a world filled with noise, craving, and insecurity, her voice becomes something rare, something magnetic. Because in the end, it isn't beauty alone that captivates a man. It isn't charm or mystery or strategy. It's the unmistakable force of a woman who stands firmly in her worth, speaks from her center, and refuses to abandon herself for anyone. There is a certain stillness in a woman who knows her worth, a calm gravity that pulls the world toward her without her lifting a finger for validation. When she speaks from a place of internal order. When she listens with intention. When she makes a decision, it comes from a foundation built on self-respect rather than insecurity. She does not run after what is uncertain, and she does not beg for what does not align with her values. She understands that attention is cheap, but respect is earned through consistency, discipline, and a mind that refuses to betray itself for temporary comfort. A high-value woman has spent enough time understanding herself to know that she is not interested in performing for approval or shrinking for acceptance. She doesn't twist her personality into shapes that please others. She doesn't soften her boundaries to keep the peace. She doesn't dilute her standards to avoid being alone. She holds herself to a standard of truth, and that standard becomes the filter that reveals who belongs in her life and who was only passing through. A man senses this immediately. He feels her steadiness. He feels her depth. He realizes quickly that he is not standing in front of someone who is impressed by surface-level gestures or half-hearted effort. When she speaks to a man, her words carry weight, not because she raises her voice, but because she raises the quality of her presence. She doesn't talk in circles. She doesn't dramatize. She doesn't manipulate with silence or overwhelm with emotion. She says what she means and means what she says. Her clarity is powerful enough to make even the most uncertain man confront himself. It pulls him into honesty because he senses she will not tolerate vague intentions. She carries herself as someone who chooses carefully, not someone who desperately hopes to be chosen. Her boundaries are not walls, they are gates. She is approachable, but she is not accessible to anyone who hasn't shown integrity. She is kind, but she is not naive. She can love deeply, but she does not lose herself in the process. She knows that a relationship should enhance her, not drain her. So when she says no, it's firm. When she says yes, it's wholehearted. And when she steps back from someone, it is without bitterness, just a recognition that her peace is more important than someone's potential. What makes her truly compelling is not perfection, but emotional maturity. She has learned how to hold her emotions without being ruled by them. She has faced her insecurities long enough to stop projecting them onto others. She does not punish a man for what someone else did to her. She communicates with honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. She takes responsibility for her side of every situation. She asks for what she needs without apology and listens to what others need without defensiveness. This level of maturity is rare, and it creates a type of connection that feels safe, grounded, and real. A man who encounters her feels something shift within himself. He sees that she is not impressed by bare minimum effort. He realizes he cannot sway her with charm alone. She demands presence, consistency, and intention, not because she's controlling, but because she knows the chaos that comes from accepting less. She speaks in a way that challenges him to rise, not through criticism, but through example. Her discipline, her boundaries, her emotional intelligence, these things push him to become someone capable of matching her energy. And if he cannot, she will walk away with grace rather than resentment. That's what makes her unforgettable. She does not fear being alone because she is not lonely within herself. That inner fullness radiates through every word she speaks. She can express affection without attachment, desire without desperation, interest without losing her center. She can hold space for a man's growth, but she will not pause her life waiting for him to change. She honors her standards because they protect the life she has built. She is not interested in relationships that interrupt her peace, dim her potential, or distract her from her purpose. When she is upset, She addresses the issue calmly instead of exploding or withdrawing. When she is disappointed, she communicates that disappointment instead of burying it. When she is uncertain, she asks for clarity instead of creating stories in her mind. Her emotional maturity becomes the foundation that strengthens her relationships, her decisions, and her inner stability. What makes her irresistible is that she does not try to be. She isn't performing, she isn't competing, she isn't trying to prove anything. She simply moves through the world with the confidence of someone who knows her value and refuses to abandon it. She embodies the truth that respect is not demanded, it is earned through alignment with one's principles. Men don't resist her because she is difficult, they are magnetized because she is rare. She brings a level of depth that forces honesty, a level of stability that inspires growth, a level of self-respect that commands equal respect in return. Her presence challenges, strengthens, and awakens. And in every conversation, every silence, every boundary, she communicates one powerful message. I know who I am, and I will not become less for anyone. There is a quiet power in the way a high-value woman speaks, a strength that is immediately noticeable and impossible to ignore. She does not shout to be heard. She does not embellish to be admired. Her words are deliberate, measured, and intentional, carrying the weight of someone who knows exactly what she wants and refuses to dilute her truth for anyone's comfort. She has learned that attention gained through drama is fleeting, respect earned through insecurity is fragile, and desire built on neediness is temporary. Real influence comes from steadiness, clarity, and emotional integrity. When she speaks, a man can feel the difference immediately. Her tone is composed because she is composed within. She does not react to every impulse, every slight, or every expectation. She is not a prisoner of others' moods. Her communication is a reflection of her internal order, calm, precise, and unshakable. There is no need to manipulate, no need to over-explain, no need to chase approval. She conveys her intentions clearly, ensuring that her presence is understood without compromise. That clarity itself becomes magnetic. It commands attention because it signals that she values her words, her time, and her peace. Drama has no place in her language. She does not exaggerate problems to gain sympathy. She does not create tension to feel important, and she does not weaponize emotions to control. Her conversations are free from theatrics because she understands the energy it wastes. Life is too valuable and her presence too precious to expend it on chaos that adds nothing. When a man interacts with her, he senses that she is anchored in reality, that she is aligned with her truth, and that she cannot be swayed by petty games or fleeting whims. This type of communication forces honesty, accountability, and integrity from those around her. Insecurity does not dictate her words. She does not question her value in hopes that others will reassure her. She does not apologize for existing or dilute her opinions to avoid conflict. She knows that self-respect cannot coexist with self-doubt expressed publicly. So she speaks from a place of confidence rooted in understanding herself deeply. Each sentence she utters carries the authority of a woman who has faced her fears, confronted her weaknesses, and embraced her strengths. Men are drawn to this presence because it is rare. They feel an instinctive need to rise to meet her standard rather than lower her to theirs. Neediness is foreign to her voice. She does not beg for attention, affection, or commitment. She does not plead to be understood or persuade someone to stay. She communicates from a place of abundance, not scarcity. She knows that anyone who truly belongs in her life will step forward willingly. Anyone who does not align will simply fall away. Her words are firm but inviting, decisive but open, honest but compassionate. She does not create tension through desperation. Instead, she inspires it through her consistency, her certainty, and her unwillingness to compromise her boundaries. Her calmness is not passivity. It is intentional strength. It allows her to navigate conversations with a clarity that others cannot match. She can challenge without attacking, correct without shaming, and assert without alienating. Her precision ensures that every word serves a purpose, communicates a boundary, or reveals a truth. There is no filler. There is no emotional clutter. She understands that less said with meaning is far more powerful than endless words without substance. This level of communication is not only commanding, it is transformative. Those who hear her cannot remain the same because her presence demands clarity, self-awareness, and responsibility. Men feel it instinctively. They notice that she does not entertain manipulation or tolerate dishonesty. They notice that she sets the tone and expects it to be met. They feel the weight of her calmness and the magnetism of her self-possession. She does not need to explain her power. It is evident in every gesture, every pause, every carefully chosen word. Her communication reflects a mind that is disciplined, a heart that is centered, and a soul that is unshakable. She listens as much as she speaks, and even listening is an act of precision. She hears not only the words, but the intentions behind them. She discerns honesty from pretense, clarity from confusion, and commitment from casualness. When she responds, it is deliberate, informed, and meaningful. She does not react to empty noise. She engages with substance, and that very selectiveness amplifies her allure. A man who wishes to stand near her must speak with purpose, or his words will fade into irrelevance. Ultimately, the power of her communication lies in her self-respect. She does not negotiate her value, she does not compromise her principles, and she does not allow fleeting desires to dictate her actions. She communicates from a foundation built on understanding herself, honoring her boundaries, and commanding respect. This is not about charm or strategy, it is about being complete in herself and letting her completeness ripple into every conversation, every interaction, and every connection. When a high-value woman speaks, the world listens not because she demands it, but because her clarity, her calm, and her unwavering self-respect leave no alternative. And that, ultimately, is irresistible. There is a power in words that comes not from volume or charm, but from the quiet authority of someone who has mastered themselves. A high-value woman speaks with an unmistakable clarity that signals she knows exactly who she is, what she wants, and what she will not tolerate. Her communication is direct, cutting through ambiguity and pretense, because she understands that time is finite, attention is precious, and clarity is the foundation of all meaningful interaction. She does not hint. She does not pander. She does not leave room for guessing games. Every statement she makes carries weight because it reflects a mind that refuses to be distracted, a heart that refuses to be unsettled, and a soul that refuses to compromise its integrity. Directness is not aggression. It is the ability to communicate intention without apology. A high-value woman does not dress her words in unnecessary fluff or sugarcoat inconvenient truths to avoid discomfort. She addresses what matters, when it matters, and in the way it matters. A man senses this immediately. He feels the difference between someone who wavers, deflects, or avoids responsibility and someone whose words come from a place of grounded certainty. Her directness forces clarity. It creates alignment. It eliminates confusion. And in a world cluttered with mixed signals and half-hearted attempts at connection, this straightforwardness is magnetic. Her emotional intelligence amplifies the impact of her words. She understands the currents beneath surface emotions, not just in herself, but in those around her. She knows how to convey her truth while remaining sensitive to the context. And she can read a man's intentions with the same precision. She does not react impulsively to ego or provocation. She does not allow insecurities or past hurts to dictate her responses. Instead, she maintains control over her emotions, using them as instruments to communicate depth, empathy, and understanding. When she speaks, It is impossible for a man to manipulate her because her awareness of self and others acts as a shield against deception, drama, and coercion. Manipulation fails in the presence of inner strength. A high-value woman has invested in herself far too long to be unsettled by half-truths or empty promises. She is not swayed by charm alone, nor does she require constant validation to feel secure. She recognizes when someone is acting out of weakness or intent to control, and she refuses to engage in games that compromise her integrity. Her communication is grounded in truth, and truth cannot be twisted. A man may test her patience, her boundaries, or her emotions, but he will quickly discover that she cannot be played, bargained with, or coerced. This impenetrable quality is magnetic, because it is rare few women move through the world with such unshakable alignment between their words, their actions, and their self-respect. Her directness, emotional intelligence, and resilience do not make her unapproachable, they make her compelling. When she engages with a man, she does not try to manipulate, seduce, or control. She simply communicates with precision, revealing her inner strength through every choice of word, every pause, every gesture. She sets expectations without demanding compliance, and she expresses boundaries without fear or apology. Her presence forces honesty and responsibility in others because they cannot ignore the integrity that defines her. She is both a mirror and a guide, showing men what it means to speak and act with authenticity and challenging them to rise to that level of clarity and strength. This inner strength is cultivated through relentless self-awareness. She has faced her weaknesses, embraced her flaws, and confronted her fears. She has learned that true influence comes not from bending others to her will, but from being immovable in her truth. Her voice carries this authority naturally, without the need for theatrics, persuasion, or external validation. A man senses immediately that this is someone who cannot be undermined by uncertainty or swayed by manipulation. Her communication is magnetic because it conveys the certainty of a life fully owned, a mind fully disciplined, and a heart fully aware. She also understands the subtle art of timing. Directness without awareness can feel harsh. Emotional intelligence without honesty can feel manipulative. She balances these effortlessly. She speaks when it matters, listens when it matters, and remains silent when words would dilute her impact. Every interaction is measured, intentional, and purposeful. She reveals her strength not through force, but through presence. A man may be drawn to her confidence, captivated by her depth, and compelled to meet her on equal footing, all because her words carry the weight of someone who is grounded in herself. What makes her truly irresistible is that she does not try to be. She does not perform, impress, or compete. She simply speaks in alignment with her identity, and that alignment radiates authenticity. Her inner strength is not loud. It is steady. It does not demand acknowledgement. It commands it naturally. Men cannot resist this presence because it reflects a reality that few people achieve, a life in which words, actions, and values are inseparable and influence is wielded through integrity rather than manipulation. She teaches, through example, that communication is a reflection of self-respect. She demonstrates that directness is power, emotional intelligence is influence, and immovability is attraction. Every word she speaks becomes a signal. I am anchored in my value, aligned with my truth, and impossible to bend to anyone else's expectations. And in that certainty, in that clarity, in that quiet, undeniable strength, she becomes unforgettable. True attraction is never manufactured. It cannot be bought, forced, or earned through superficial gestures. It arises naturally from presence, self-possession, and authenticity. A high-value woman understands this at a profound level. She does not bend, adjust, or perform to capture attention. She does not mold herself to fit expectations or try to please anyone for temporary approval. Instead, She becomes magnetic by being fully rooted in who she is, by living consistently with her values, and by embodying a level of self-awareness that few achieve. Her attraction is a byproduct of alignment, a resonance between her inner reality and the outer world. Being grounded means she carries herself with stability and confidence. Her emotions are neither volatile nor performative. She does not react to every provocation, nor does she seek validation from fleeting interactions. She knows where she stands in her life, in her purpose, and in her identity. And this certainty is communicated in the way she walks, talks, and engages with others. Men sense this immediately. They feel the strength in her calm, the power in her steadiness, and the security in her self-possession. She does not need to seek attention because her presence alone demands it. Self-awareness is the force behind her magnetism. She has looked inward, faced her fears, acknowledged her flaws, and embraced her strengths. She knows what she wants, what she will tolerate, and what she will never compromise. She understands how her emotions, words, and actions impact herself and those around her. This awareness allows her to navigate relationships, conversations, and challenges with precision. She communicates clearly, sets boundaries firmly, and responds thoughtfully, never out of impulse or insecurity. Her self-awareness acts as a filter. A man who cannot meet her energy or respect her standards is naturally excluded, leaving space only for those aligned with her truth. Alignment with her truth is perhaps the most potent source of her attraction. She does not perform roles for approval, nor does she pretend to be someone she is not. She refuses to compromise her principles or bend to societal pressures for validation. Everything she does, every choice she makes, every word she speaks reflects a consistent inner reality. A man instinctively recognizes this authenticity. It challenges him. It inspires him. It compels him to rise to meet her, not because she demands it, but because her life radiates a standard that cannot be ignored. She is not chasing approval, she is modeling excellence. Her allure does not come from superficial charm or effort to please. Pleasing requires dependency, a constant effort to anticipate others' desires, manipulate perception, or perform for recognition. High-value women understand that this is not only unsustainable, but fundamentally unattractive. Real attraction comes from presence, not performance. It comes from someone who is fully occupied by their own life and their own growth, someone who is rich in self-possession rather than in desperate gestures of approval seeking. Men are drawn to her because she embodies what most people strive for but rarely achieve: completeness within herself. Groundedness, self-awareness, and alignment with truth manifest in her interactions. She listens with intention, speaks with clarity, and acts with integrity. She does not over-explain, overcompensate, or overextend for anyone's comfort. Her time is valued, her energy is protected, and her boundaries are unwavering. When she enters a space, she does not need to announce her worth. It is evident in every gesture, every word, every pause. Men sense this and respond instinctively. They are drawn not because she demands attention, but because she radiates authenticity, strength, and certainty. Her grounded nature allows her to remain unshaken by manipulation, criticism, or the fleeting whims of others. She is unaffected by attempts to provoke, persuade, or control her. Her self-awareness equips her to navigate challenges with composure, to understand when to engage and when to step back. Her alignment ensures that her actions always reflect her principles, creating consistency and reliability in every interaction. Together, these qualities form an aura that is magnetic, undeniable, and impossible to ignore. She creates attraction not by trying to impress, but by living a life that is full, rich, and intentional. She invests in her growth, her passions, and her purpose. She builds relationships, experiences, and opportunities not out of scarcity, but out of abundance, This abundance is visible, it resonates, it draws others toward her naturally. A man who encounters her feels compelled to match her energy, rise to her standards, and align with her truth, not because she manipulates him, but because she embodies a reality that is impossible to resist. Ultimately, the attraction she generates is a reflection of her mastery over herself. She is grounded in her identity, aware of her worth, and aligned with her truth. She does not need to chase, compete, or perform. Her presence, her clarity, and her integrity do the work for her. In a world of noise, neediness, and performative gestures, she stands apart. She teaches, without speaking, that true allure is not external, it is internal. And that internal strength, self-awareness, and unwavering alignment make her irresistible.